Salim explains, or Ustad explains, how a basic fundamental issue that confronts people, the human mind, even if we don't think about it, we certainly feel it, and we were talking about this yesterday, is how to escape the fact that everything is going to leave us, everything is going to perish, we will die, things will die eventually, right, will perish eventually. And so is there a way to escape that, right? Is there a way to transform this tiny, ephemeral life into something that can be eternal, and not only eternal, but continuously growing and living for eternity, right? And so I think this point alludes to that, in that the moment you step on the Prophet ﷺ's path, you know, and you follow him, you are transforming everything into something that is going to be an eternal fruit. When I first learned that or studied that, you know, I was filled with such amazement, because it answers the most profound question, the most, as we were saying yesterday, the most complex dilemma, the most forbearing of issues, which is how to transform life into eternity. How can we gain eternity, right? And in this way, we can even, you know, by going to the bathroom in the Prophet ﷺ's way, dressing in the way he dressed, trying to, just even trying, not even if you make it, but trying to make your akhlaq like his akhlaq, right?
I think the akhlaq point is important, because the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is not just in external actions, it's also in akhlaq, it's also in morality, it's also in ethics.
Yeah.
So when we talk about sunnah, it's the whole package. You know, it's not just entering the bathroom with the right foot or the left foot, or, you know.
Right.
These things are all important as pointers as well. But it helps us to de-secularize our lives, because what it does, it gives us a connection. And the connection to the Prophet is the connection to Allah. So, yes, Muhammad.
Yeah, as you said, actually, the morality, the akhlaq, these are very important. And here, Ustaz, we'll read hopefully. This is even the smallest acts, smallest physical things can remind us or put us in the right way. And then the akhlaq, the morality, these are the other things. So even if it's the small things of the sunnah is working like a compass for us, then what about if we follow his morality, his akhlaq, then what kind of person will be, or how we're going to save it?
Any other insights or thoughts? What just one second. Why do we? How do we understand the notion of when my community is corrupted? Why is it important when my community is corrupted? The Prophet says that even the smallest act, even as you said, Mehmet, the tiniest act, becomes of such importance at times of corruption. Here, to comply with them in even a small matter of behavior, particularly when the community is corrupted, signifies a powerful belief and fear of God. Why is the emphasis in the Risala here on the corruption of the community?
Don't go on.
Abdullah, you did have your hand.
So I have my hand for something previous to that, but then in regards to this, Bismillah. When you gain the value, it's like, you know, when people say the building is catching fire, right? And people don't know about it, and one person, for instance, realizes that the building is going to catch fire, you know, and he starts calling people and trying to save them. He becomes a hero, right? In the sense that he is. I think it might be going. I mean, we can look at it from that perspective. Like, he becomes a hero in that he's saving people, right, from catastrophe. Let's put it like that. My thoughts are not as clear as just that.
Okay. This notion of saving?
Yeah, for example, let's say we're in the sea and Jesus gives this example. Like in the sea, if there is no storm, nothing, you have time to reach your place. Even if you go from the wrong direction, you have chance and enough time to change your direction to find right direction. But in the time of the corruption, as if it is a stormy sea, that you need the shortest way and the safest way to get away from the storms, because it's very dangerous, and it is much more possible that you will sink, you know. So that's why, like, you need a compass that will show you directly the safest road, shortest road, because you don't have time for that.
Also, I remember the hadith of Aisha. It says he's khuluq al-Quran. His life is directly related with the Quran. Quran is the words of Allah and tell us what Allah wants from us. And Rasulullah lives with the Allah words. That means from the particles to big actions in his life is accepted by Allah. That means we can do anything what he did before. And another Ustad mentioned about the Sirat al-Mustaqim, making tafsir of that ayah in the different parts of Risale Nur. He's talking about the Anbiya, prophets, their path, Sirat al-Mustaqim. In the corruption time, we can make a sunnat to be in Sirat al-Mustaqim. They make a balance, even we are get out from the way, the sunnah catch us to put the Sirat al-Mustaqim.
I'll come to you, but is
No.
there anyone else? Sorry, my line of vision is.
I think when the conditions are terrible, the wars, then the rewards for the actions can be different, can be more. For example, a soldier in the war, they were fighting with the enemy, and maybe half an hour time of the fighting in the war play, then it is much more auspicious, much more valuable during normal peacetime. Then the conditions is worse now. Majority of the people are going away from the straight path. Therefore, following the straight path is so important. Then its value is higher due to the conditions of the current time. And follow the path of Rasulullah. Therefore, even small actions reminding the straight path, reminding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command to follow. And therefore, it is more important during the corruption of the ummah.
May I just say something? So, also, I think anybody who approaches Islam, right, will find that even it is mentioned almost everywhere in the hadith of our Prophet ﷺ, his life, that the corruption of our ummah is a sign of the qiyamah, of the end of times. Right? So I think that also is important, because we might think, well, why is the ummah like this? But it is also important to know that it is something that was going to happen. We know this from the first generation, and the first generation of our community, of the Muslim community, they knew this very, very well, because he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that there are signs before the end. And many of those signs are related to the fact that the community, or big parts of the community, are going to fall into error, they're going to fall into heedlessness, ghafla, and so it also is important because of that.
He also said that every generation that succeeds will get progressively worse. In other words, will decline progressively. So we come down to the present time, and we see that we're in total corruption. Actually, the whole of not just the Muslim, but the whole of the world. in corruption. One very, very quick example, and it won't be a story. There was a student, Muslim student, female student, who came to our workshop at the weekend, and she said, when I got to this place in England where she's studying, it's only a small university, she said, I saw that other Muslims had taken off their hijab and they started drinking alcohol, and she said, it's all around me, and I got very, very scared. I thought, I may do the same thing. I'm scared, and I don't want to do the same thing as them, but I'm scared that I will. But alhamdulillah, she hasn't, and she's kept on that path, and that is extremely difficult. It's easy for me here to see everyone here practicing certain things and following. It's very easy to do it. But when I'm on my own, among people who are not doing that, to do it then is a kind of revolutionary act, actually.
Yeah, the principle is the reward is proportionate to the effort. Right, that's a fundamental
And also the
principle of
difficulty.
Sharia.
Circumstances.
Okay.
Community is corrupted, and this one through the reading the Stella Nurun is my study is so now is a very obvious sign that is everyone looking everything yes not is yes as it is not looking at everything is spiritually. Yes, now one of the elements for the Akhir Zaman is the sign of Dajjal. Sign of Dajjal is just has one eye, looking everything materially. So this word today, including Muslim community, look at everything is material. They do not concede yes the essence of everything. They do not look at the spirit. So they just value everything according to yes egoism, the nationalism. They deny yes, the personality of Rasulullah. He is the principle of the university. So today, of course, we found that yes. Some of the modernist scholars, they just try to deny لولاك ما خلقت الأفلاك. Yes, هذا الحديث ربما maybe if we understand that hadith, we can understand the topic. Yes.
That's interesting. Your take on Dajjal having one eye. I've always thought that the television has one eye. The screens we're always looking at has one eye. But one eye means being blinded, right?
Yeah.
The other eye is blind, and all you see is the matter. It's very interesting. Anyone else? Yes.
When the hadith remind when community is corrupt, when if he say when, I think which sunnah are important in our zaman, in our time. Like a question, I'm thinking. There is a lot of sunnah, but in our time, which sunnah are important, more important? Because here minds when corrupted by ummah. Yeah.
It's a question.
It's like a question.
Anyone have to?
Related to Abi's question, that this hadith is not general, it is specific, as it says, he may gain the reward of 100 martyr. So he will gain, it doesn't say he will gain. That kind of hadith mostly Ustad says that there will be a certain type of amal that will gain the person that reward. It's not general that for all kinds of sunnah. It's like eating and drinking and walking. You may not gain that reward with those things. It can be something that the circumstances necessitate it become more prevalent and paramount in the context of the present time, that you do it and you get the reward. So it's not general, it is specific. A type of amal or a type of deed or sunnah that will gain you that reward.
I would say that this kind of gathering is that kind of sunnah, because it doesn't happen, right? And it happens in very difficult circumstances. Everyone that came here has left their jobs to come here, right? And at the taken leave to come here, is going to great trouble to make sure that everything is working. This doesn't happen, for the sake of, for an ilahi sake. It doesn't happen very often in the world.
That's why sometimes, to complete that, just quick, sometimes I see people very self-righteous, like they do simple sunnah and then they expect others to do also, without like missing the main point of sunnah. Like it may not be the essential in this time, like so essential that you feel very self-righteous and you are demanding others to follow, to do that sunnah, like
the beard.
growing the beard or
I thought that
it's like it, so it's like, and being self-righteous is will spoil the sunnah. Like you are growing beard, you cannot demand on the other, or you cannot look down on them that they don't have beard. Otherwise, the essence of beard is lost, because essence of sunnah is modesty. So in the akhlaq part you are missing, but in the behavior part you are having something, but your akhlaq is cancelling or invalidating the behavior of sunnah that you are
And also
doing.
you drive people away.
You drive people away from it. So akhlaq is important.
So the basic meaning of being martyred that is generally known in the society is like going to the wars for Islam and then getting martyred over there. But the another thing which here it says the person who does everything according to Sunnah will gain the sawab of 100 martyrs. It's like we all have nafs, and it insists it pokes us to do the haram things and other things, and we are doing jihad against our nafs every time. So it's like we are in jihad all the time, and that's why we are getting the benefit of martyrs.
Shahid is also a witness.
Yeah.
So you're witnessing the righteousness of the Prophet, and you're witnessing the divine presence as well. So Shahid is not just one who dies in battle. Anyone else before we? Yes?
I thought that if the Prophet ﷺ lives right time, if we get stuck a problem, if we have some questions, we can go his side, right? To find a solution. If he lives in that time, lives at that time, but he is not living in that time, but his sunnah is living. We can, if we have problems and something troubles, we can directly go to the expert, which is the sunnah for us. Yeah. Sunnah is the expert for us. Yeah.
We have a couple of minutes left before we go to the next passage. Is there anyone who wants
There's
to?
a part in Mektubat about the fasad to Ummah. And I couldn't find the translation, but I translated it
Mashallah.
from says it is known that sometimes a minute, an hour, and perhaps a day may yield results and become significant as a year or a lifetime. A minute or an hour may yield results as a lifetime. For instance, a man who becomes a martyr in a minute gains saintly rank, and enduring the intensity of cold or standing guard in the terror of enemy attack for an hour may be deemed equivalent to a year of worship. Similarly, the importance given to reciting stems from the importance of time, the devastation inflicted upon the Sharia of Muhammad والسلام, and symbols of Ahmed, Sha'air Ahmadiyya, Sharia of Muhammadiyya. The severity in this century and the severity of the trials of these latter times, the need of the whole Ummah for refuge since ancient times. They sought refuge from this and rescuing the believer's faith. It points out to this, like at the end of time, people will start to lose their faith. And what we do, as you said, saving belief, maybe also the most important sunnah.
Yeah, thanks for that. They say extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, but extraordinary hardship and difficulty need extraordinary solutions. So the Rasail is an extraordinary solution for an extraordinary situation where faith has been lost, over the past 500 years. Anyone else
In
like
the
to?
third point, Ustaz Geyve, maybe we can just read that part as well. In the third point, we read the first point, so in the third point he is giving an example from his own experience.
If it's short.
Yeah, but someone may read it.
You can read it.
Yeah, you read it because
down.
it's,
Go down.
oh, it's the third point.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Okay.
At the time this poor son was struggling to emerge from the old side, his intellect and heart were floundering among the truths in a terrible spiritual storm, resulting from the lack of a guide and the pride of his ill commanding soul. They were being tossed around, rising and falling, sometimes from the Pleiades to the ground, sometimes from the ground to the Pleiades. Yeah, okay. Just this part. At that time, I observed that, like Qibla directing compasses, showing the course to be followed in sheets, each of the matters of the practice of Prophet ﷺ, even the small points of contact, were like electric switches among innumerable hazardous dark ways. Whenever in the course of that spiritual journeying, I saw myself under awesome pressure, overwhelmed by truly burdensome loads, I followed the matters of the practices, touching on the situation. I experienced a lightness as though all my burdens were being lifted from me. By submitting to them, I saved from those as scruples, that is, from such anxieties as, is this course of action right? Is it beneficial? But if I gave up them, I looked and I saw that the pressure was intense. There were numerous ways and it couldn't be known where they lay. It's almost finishing. The load was heavy and I was utterly powerless. My view was short and the way dark. But whenever I adhered to the Prophet Muhammad's practices, the way was lit up and seemed to be safe. I felt as though the load was being lightened and pressure lifted. At those times, I confirmed through my own observations what Imam Rabbani had said.
Okay, thank you.
What he said?
It was in the second point. It was the second point. It says, okay, Imam Rabbani, may Allah said, I saw while traversing the degrees in my spiritual journey that the ranks of saints, they were most brilliant, splendid, subtle, and so on, were those who made following prophets' practices the base of their way.
Okay, we can stop it there. Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Good way of wrapping up the first passage. Can we go to the second passage, which is from the 24th word, 5th branch, 4th fruit. O soul, do not look at the worldly and especially the dissipated and the unbelievers and be deceived by their superficial glitter and illicit pleasures. Do not imitate them. For even if you do imitate them, you will not be like them. You will decline immeasurably. You cannot be an animal even. For the intellect in your head becomes an inauspicious tool which constantly beats you over the head. For example, there is a palace and in one of its large apartments is a powerful electric lamp. Small electric lights which branch out from it and are attached to it have been divided among its small apartments. Now, someone touches the switch of the big light and turns it off. All of the apartments are plunged into deep darkness and desolation. Another palace has small electric lights in all its apartments which are not connected to the large light. If the owner of the latter palace, that's the second palace, presses the switch of the large electric light and turns it off, there may still be lights on in the other apartments, by which he can carry out his work and which will not allow thieves to profit from the darkness. O soul, the first palace is a Muslim, and the Prophet Muhammad is the large electric light in his heart. if he forgets him, or I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed, he expels him from his heart. He will accept none of the other prophets. Indeed, no place will remain in his spirit for any perfection. He will not even recognize his sustainer. All the apartments and subtle faculties in his nature will be plunged into darkness, and there will be a terrible destruction and desolation in his heart. How will he profit in the face of this destruction and desolation? Where will he find familiarity? What benefit will he secure which will repair the damage? However, Europeans resemble the second palace. Even if they cast out from their hearts the light of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, lights of a sort may remain, or they suppose they remain. They may continue to have a sort of belief in their Creator and in Moses and Jesus, ﷺ, which will allow them to attain good morals and character. O my evil commanding soul, if you say, I am not a European and I want to be an animal, how many times have I told you, you cannot be an animal? For there is intelligence in your head, and it strikes your face, eyes, and head with the pains of the past and fears of the future, and beats you. It adds 1,000 pains to one pleasure, whereas animals receive pleasure without pain. So first pluck out your intelligence and throw it away, then be an animal. You will also receive the chastening slap of, like cattle, nay, they are further astray. So the two palaces, one has the central light, and everything is lit by that light, and if you turn off that light, the whole palace becomes black and dark and meaningless. And the second palace has a central light, but also individual lights. It's an amazing analogy, actually. So the people in the apartments in the second palace may have this little light, which helps them function. So he's making a comparison between people who leave the way of the Prophet, the ex-Muslims that we all know about, and Mehmet is doing his study on people who leave the path. You can't become like we can't become like Europeans. We can't. It's impossible, because you've gone from the high to the low. If you give up the way of the Prophet, there is no superior way. So then you will fall to the stature of animals, and you can't be an animal because you have a conscience in the other. You have a mind. So any thoughts, any initial thoughts on it? Yes.
Sometimes we see the those who leave the religion, but still we see that their humanity, the basis, like the fundamental human values, are still existing in their day-to-day interactions or communications. So they are not actually becoming monster or animal in the literary sense, but then I'm thinking that they were perhaps never in Islam. That's why they didn't become animal. And then those who leave, perhaps they were not in the fold of Islam. They were like maybe in the bordering, and then they just wanted to go to the other side of the border, not this side of the border. That's how I understand, because we sometimes see the people who leave Islam, but still they are very humane. Like they are very kind, they are honest. So, like Ustaz says that they have no perfection left in them, because it's like the central lamp is already went off, so nothing left. So maybe Ustaz means that there are those who were really in Islam, practicing, and then because of some like maybe animalistic desires, worldly fame, and other things overcome, and they went out of the fold of Islam. That's why, because of base interest, they left Islam. They become, they take the form of like their behavior, their perfections are all lost. But those in the border, those who are not sure yet, they may still maintain a level
Yeah.
of humanity or
But
civility.
the humanity and civility that they maintain is from the Islamic tradition. It's from their. If you're talking about Muslims who leave
Yeah.
the faith.
So
Okay.
like two kinds of Muslims. Like
They may
one
not
is
be mu'min so much, but they may be, cultural or ethnically affiliated to Islam, and they move. But it's the same with people in the West that have left Christianity for many years. They still retain some of the morality and civility of Judeo-Christian values, but ultimately it doesn't mean anything. I mean, only Allah knows how they will be treated. But it's in a sense utilitarian. It's for a purpose. I'm going to be kind to people, so people are kind to me. So there's lots of. It's not black and white, is it? It's as you say. There are grades. Anyone have any thoughts about this?
Could it be?
Yes.
Could it be more like what they experience in their hearts rather than their relations, their interaction with other people? It says here in the same place. For there is intelligence in your head, and it strikes your face, eyes, and head with the pains of the past and fears of the future, and beats you. It adds 1,000 pains to one pleasure. How they experience it, their day-to-day life on their own, like their personal life will be damaged. Maybe more than their interactions with other people.
Also, Ustad gives like these analogies about mostly about when he talks about trusting your own knowledge versus relying on Allah. In 23rd verse, for example, when you are going through a bridge, you are in absolute darkness other than your small circle of light. But when you try to look above, down, front and back, you see monsters, dragons, graveyards. Basically their universe, their palace, are in absolute darkness. When we talk about darkness, maybe we can imagine that situation. And Ustad actually in that analogy gives the other way around, right? So when they break their own light or their trust of their own knowledge, the whole universe is being illuminated. So this light, illumination, and going into darkness, very similar to this one, just is in the opposite direction. This one is going from light into darkness, the other one is from darkness into light.
Were you alluding to the passage where he talks about the tiny torch
Yeah.
someone's taking, and it only lights a small way?
Yeah.
So I think this is the Europeans' issue here is they have the small light still, maybe which is been left from the Judeo-Christian morality, but it only lights a small way, and it's only good enough for them for a small journey. If they were to smash it, they would see it, then it would become actually fully light.
I think, when I started reading, and I think it might be the experience of many people, when they start reading Salim Nur, they say, mashallah, it's super appropriate for the time in which Ustad Said Nursi was living, because you picture what was going on here in Turkey, for example, with the Republic and so it's extremely appropriate. But now times have changed, right? But if you see, for example, what the government in Saudi Arabia is doing, for example, it's exactly the same, but according to today's, situation, but it's exactly the same. He's making people think we should, practice Halloween, we should have, and he's bringing the same, for lack of a better word, modernity.
It's Jahiliyyah on steroids, right?
Yeah, but the same, we should, what the Europeans have, this is what we need to become progressive. This is what we need to become, this modern, this is what we should be. And then, so how, appropriate it is, because if, for instance, the Gaza situation were not in the present time gathering so much attention, They would just continue full steroids doing it, you know? And then these other countries in the Gulf doing the same thing. And then Morocco, Sudan even, you know, they said that normalized. And then it's like this trend is going, and this is what the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke about Akhir Zaman, I think, so much.
When people say that the Risalah is good for its own time, it means they haven't read it. Because you said times change, but people don't change. You know, and this whole notion of progress, this is also the secular notion of progress, linear progress. This is because people think with rational intellect rather than intuitive intellect. Actually, ever since the time of the Prophet, ﷺ, we are in decline. You may be able to get from here to Australia in 2 hours in the future, okay? But so what? What will you do with all the time you save? More time to waste, more time to make fasha, more time to, you know, to be greedy and to be selfish. So people haven't changed. Yes.
In Torah flashes, Ustaz says, and I want to mention about it's also mentioned about Sunnah, small Sunnah and other Sunnah. Indeed, the physical and spiritual life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is throughout the testimony of its words, the very life of the universe's life. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's messengership is the consciousness and life of the universe's consciousness. While the Quranic revelation, according to the testimony of its living truths, is the spirit of the universe's life and the intelligence of the consciousness. Yes, yes, yes. If the light of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam messengership were to depart from the universe would die. If the Quran were to depart, the universe would go mad, the earth would lose its head and its reason. It would even strike its known unconscious head, and a plant and doomsday would occur. Planet and doomsday would occur.
Thank you. There was a hand that went up over there, or am I imagining it? Moinuddin, did you put your hand?
Do you want me to add a comment?
No, I thought I saw your hand go up. So.
Okay. You can add a comment.
I'm not forcing you, but if you got something, yeah, give it.
Like, here is giving an example of non-believers.
A
Like,
bit louder, please.
here he is giving the ideology of non-believers who doesn't like descendant from Jews and Christians. Like, there are some good people. Like, not all of them are evil. The goodness is left in them, maybe. But as you said, it doesn't take them to the long way. Like, it's a small touch. It's not enough for the long journey. Like, they need to follow the sunnah of Prophet, so that ways their what do you say, road should be lit.
Yeah. I think also here important in this passage is about you cannot emulate them. I don't know what your experience is, but when I used to live in Iran, there were women who would go to the West and they would follow the fashions, the latest fashions, and then they would come back to Iran, and we would see them actually, and they looked like no Western woman looks, you know. They looked so exaggeratedly, so full of makeup and just incredibly strange. And we used to say that no one in England dresses like this. Where did you go to find this kind of strange costume, you know? What they probably did was they looked at these fashion shows where they wear the most outrageously crazy clothes, and this is how they emulate. It's over-exaggerated, hyper-exaggerated. So we can't emulate. You can't emulate that thing because it's first of all, it's not fitri. You have to force it, you know. So any idea, any thoughts about this emulating, this following, this blind following of alien values?
There is also a factor of obstinacy. Like some say so like obscene, like not far more than like a regular European, because they are trying to like give a message like to be obstinate against Islam, and like they are doing it purposefully.
But it looks ridiculous.
Like yeah.
You know, even Western women say, well, we don't dress like this.
They are showing their rejection of religion with this like extreme dress.
So you think it's like a badge, you know, like a statement.
Yes, it's a statement.
We studied the example of milk and yogurt. It says that milk is more valuable than yogurt because you can still process it for many purposes. Yogurt is already done, and then you can only use it for yogurt and maybe iron. If the milk is corrupted, it become a poison, he says. Yogurt can be made iron also. It's like the elevated, the high quality things, once they get corrupted, they get more corrupted than the ordinary or simple things. So the Muslims like reaching at the top of minaret spiritually by having this connection, by establishing this submission. So when they fall, they don't have any middle point to climb onto. They just fall onto the bottom of the pit.
Muslims become anti-religious, not just irreligious. Like they are secular fundamentalists. Like they reject religion they don't just unbelieve.
Yeah, they believe in. It's not that they believe in nothing; they believe in anything.
They are nihilists. They hate the society and like they are against religion. They are very bitter.
There's a famous YouTuber. I try not to watch YouTube, as you know, if I can help it. But there's someone called the Apostate Prophet.
Oh yeah, it's a Turkish guy.
Yeah, he's absolutely crazy. You know, he should be locked up. He has no logic. He's actively trying to disprove everything about Islam, and he calls himself the Apostate Prophet.
I don't understand them. Like, why are you having problem with religion? If you don't believe in it, like you just live your life. I don't understand that. Why do they have a sense of mission? Like, in order to have a sense of mission, you have to have a belief.
If you don't like science fiction films, you don't go to cinema and burn down the cinema because it's showing a science fiction film. So there's a kind of, I think Omar Farooq said it. They still have this conscience, which is hurting them.
They actually believe in Allah, because if you don't believe, you don't fight against Him. But they are fighting against Allah.
They're fighting against someone they say they don't believe in.
Yes, they are actually like they believe in Allah. They are just not submitting. Like they have become enemy.
Brother Ahmed, sorry. That comparison between milk fat and
It was
milk itself?
butter, I think. Butter. Yes.
Butter.
It's more.
Butter is more valuable.
More essential.
If butter is corrupted,
sifted, yes.
You cannot utilize it. But
Become
milk can be utilized for some other reasons.
Thank you.
Purposes,
Yeah, I just want to say why the animal, if we go back to the text, is such a good example. Sorry, just stay there. So use the concept of time. It says, "I'm head with the pains of the past and fears of the future." So the difference between an animal and a human being is we have concept of time. We have the present, the past, and the future, whereas the animal doesn't. If you say to an animal, or if you show him a knife and say, "Look, tomorrow you're going to be slaughtered, I'm going to slice your neck," it's going to live the exact same life, whether you show the knife or not. But if you say to a human being, "Tomorrow with this knife I'm going to slice your neck," his whole day is going to change.
Well, that
interesting point.
We are being told so, right? By seeing all the people passing away, we are seeing that our future is like that, and that's actually what drives. If they really think about it, that what should drive them crazy, and how they cannot live the life as an animal and just taking immediate pleasure, because there's a slaughter machine in front of you. You are just going towards it. And maybe one more aspect is I think in the 17th slash it talks about the gap between Islamic world and unbelief or Europeans, if you remember. So Ustad like talks about that the gap is large. If you try to cross it, you would fall down to the what do they say, like the valley or
the abyss.
yeah. So if we just try to like there's also this like postmodernism trying to like merge Islam with Western ideologies, etc. So this kind of idea is actually kind of leaving the light of Prophet ﷺ and trying to enlighten the palace with some other sources, right? So this is actually something that is shutting down completely as well.
So what I meant.
There is a Persian Urdu poet, Allama Iqbal. He says in one of his poems that when Shaitan will see the human beings of this time, he will also get ashamed. So the thing which you said of imitation, the European women, they say we don't wear like that. Similar to this, like they learn from the Shaitan and then they pass the actions of Shaitan, and now this Shaitan gets ashamed of them.
May I also maybe a little bit controversial issue? Not controversial, but it's difficult to argue with non-believers or non-Muslims. Is the situation of a what do we call it, like convert, but divert, or like someone who leaves Islam, right, in Sharia.
Apostate.
Apostates, yes. So the law, Sharia law says they should be executed, right? So it's very difficult concept to understand. Even I personally, and I see many brothers actually having difficulty to understand it. Because the reason I actually have a problem, not a problem, but I have difficulty I had difficulty to understand is it sounds like you're trying to push people in, right? And I had problems with it so many times until reading here, because this shows why is this the case? Because when a person leaves Islam after knowing it, as brother said about like after really having like a true iman, and then leaves it, basically it turns himself into a monster. From now on, he has no proper human virtues left in him. So he cannot also become like an animal. He turns into a monster as a character, like not as physically. So he can harm the society. He can harm others. He can try to bring like some very harmful ideologies into the community. Therefore, he should be excluded from the community. I think that's maybe it could be explained better. But this itself is like protecting the community from a monstrous ideology. Is the basically the idea of this Sharia?
Yeah, I used to have problems with the idea of apostates should be executed, and there are fiqhi differences. Some say that if the apostate just leaves and is peaceful and doesn't do anything, they don't have to be executed. But if they start to militate against Islam and militate against the state, then they have to be executed. And actually, in European nations and in the West, up until very recently, there was a crime known as treason, right? And if you were accused of treason, for example, spying against the state, or for example, you were in the army and you deserted, and you went to the enemy, then the punishment was execution. So I don't understand why people are so touchy and squeamish about the notion of killing apostates, when the law of treason and the crime of treason was punished by execution.
They are coming against us though.
Yes.
used to adopt.
I mean, someone like this apostate prophet is actually militating and poisoning the atmosphere with what he's saying.
They are actively working for corruption. They
Yes.
contribute to
Yeah,
corruption.
absolutely.
They don't just live their lives.
Some people leave Islam, Ahmed was talking about those who are on the edge, right? Some people leave it because they were never part of it.
No.
So you can't really call them an apostate.
Yes.
But those who are actually actively involved and were part of the community and actively sort of making dawah for Islam, and then they move away from it and they make dawah against it, these people are like poison.
Can I add some?
Yes.
So back in the days of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the kafir, they would see that whoever accepts Islam, he is ready to give his life for Islam and not coming back, not ready to leave Islam on any cost. So they made a plan actually. I heard it from an alim, correct me if I'm wrong. So they made a plan that let's go and sit with them and act like we are Muslims. And then when the day finishes, we'll come back and we'll say like now we are not Muslims and it is like just you said to spread fitna.
Mm.
So for that as a solution, it was to cut the root and execute.
That's an ayah from the Quran.
Yes.
The opposition in the religious sense to treason, apostasy not being equated to treason is that I think it's more subjective. It's a matter of heart.
Yeah.
Like we cannot ascertain it or concretely argue for it. That's why people are being more like emotionally aroused or reactive
Yeah.
to such things.
Yes.
The treason is very obvious.
Treason is
like
obvious.
Yeah, obvious.
Yeah.
Like you catch him giving intelligence, you catch him in the other side of the enemy. But unlike this one, this is a matter of heart. How can we judge? Or how can we know that he's harboring enmity or harboring ill intentions or ill purposes?
The thing is, because we don't communicate these truths very cogently and very intelligently, you find people saying, for example, oh, all of these people are becoming Muslim because of Gaza, but the non-Muslims are saying they're all becoming Muslims, but just wait until after Gaza and they stop becoming Muslim, because then they have to be executed because they will be apostates. I mean, this is crazy. It's crazy. I mean, to talk about it now in this kind of atmosphere, we can't talk about apostasy because first of all, we don't have a state. You need a state to be able to, execute. We don't have it. So I mean, even talking about it is, you said it's controversial. It's maybe best not to even discuss it because it's a theoretical matter. But an interesting one.
There is
Yeah.
a part actually, right?
You have 1 minute.
He said it's not also translated. It says about the people of this time. With its first sentence, the explanation of an ayah from the Quran, it says, "O miserable ones, some people of faith, while their faith remains intact, and some scholars, while fully aware of afterlife, due to their attachment to them, to worldly life, knowingly and willingly prefer worldly life over religion and the afterlife." This is the situation that we experience in this time. Just like preferring a 5-cent bottle over a known and found diamond, they prefer a life of indulgence over religious feelings, and they take pride in irreligiosity. And this sentence has a particular relevance to this century because no other era has shown such a trend. In other eras, those in error were unaware of the afterlife and denied it. They did not recognize the diamond as a diamond and preferred the world. But this time, knowingly, they leave religious feelings and they take pride in religion. The people of belief.
But how can someone who believes take pride in acting opposite to belief?
Maybe he wasn't believing. I think.
So it's just like preferring a 5-cent bottle over a known diamond.
No, here, if I'm not wrong, the context is like that. It's also us, and for me, like it's me. We know Iman, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know His names, and we believe in Allah, but we have the nafas. Sometimes, by knowing them, by knowing this truth still, we use our time for unnecessary things, or we commit sin. So this is that part, yani. It's the Muslims, believers, it's a sickness of the time, Ustaz says,
Yes,
understand?
but it's not apostasy.
Yeah, no, it's
So
something
this,
else.
can this switch be turned off and on time to time when we don't actually
Yes, because
have
we
have this strong iman, like in sometimes like when we do, like, let's say, do ghaflat,
yeah.
basically meaning that when we are in ghaflat means sleep, right? So basically we turn off the lights. We are out of the enlightenment of Prophet ﷺ, and then our palaces fall in the darkness.
You may turn off part of the light, or you may close your eyes for part of the night.
Yeah.
The light is still there.
And if you're done, I can just shortly mention like, what you were talking about is religious, okay, getting away from the religion or whatever. So in the field now in Turkey, I'm talking about Turkey. Actually, the picture we are thinking is if like Turkey as 99% or 95% is Muslims. It's correct, by the way. And the recent data that we have is like 94.5% of the Turkish societies, they say, are Muslims still. Yani.
Yeah.
We have that number. But the thing is that when we go deep with the qualitative satisfaction interviews, and then we also have a survey, we see that there are kind of three forms of, this is my hypothesis actually, three kinds of religious socializations in Turkey. The first one is like proper religious socialization, that the children born and rise in a family, but there's a proper practice of religion, either mostly with a kind of a religious connection with the religious movement, like a Jama or Salainur or other tariqa or something.
Yeah.
So this is the first form.
Yeah.
Second form is non-religious or absence of religious socializations, which are the more left-handed families. The children in their life, from our participants, they didn't have any access to religion or any religious experience in their families.
So you said left-handed family?
Yeah, like
Left
how
wing.
can I say?
Left wing.
Oh, left wing.
Left wing,
Right.
or like, yeah, we use it. Like in Kadıköy, for example, let's say in Moda, they rise. So there are these two different, how can I say, edges.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the majority, which I'm also again hypothesizing, are in the mode of the fuzzy religious socialization, where the religious socialization in the families neither exists nor non-exist. And like because of there is no proper religious education neither in families or in the schools. And the society, when you look at today in Turkish society, those who are getting away from religions, mostly they're either from the families who are coming from the non-religious socialization or from the fuzzies.
The fuzzy.
And it's not it shouldn't be shocking, because they don't have the proper information about religion.
So it's a kind of schizophrenia.
Yeah, there are very few cases, like there's a famous one, mental health, it's coming from one Jama, I think it's from Tariqa. There are very few people who are only getting away from the religion from those families. And also even from that, let's say Alper said his father is Nurju, his mother is Nurju, and let's say maybe they take him, no, it's an example, sorry. Maybe they took him for madrasa since his birth. When he reached age of 14, he has nafas. If, let's say, because of some things, he may get away from religion, alhamdulillah, he's there, from the Jama, from things. But the thing is that since he was in the Jama for like say 14 years, 15 years, when he get away, he thinks as if he knows all the Risale, he everything. Still he didn't know, and he lost the, let's say, not you, I mean, there are examples. He lost the imtihan, for example, or it's nafis, and we have nafis, it's not something strange, yani. But then he acts as if, oh, I know the Nurjus, I know those, I was leading the prayer with many people, like our participants, they were telling these stories to us. Like as if they know religion very well. But when they talk, I understood that, come on, you don't know anything about Islam actually.
I think one thing we should differentiate is that every single person has an imtihan.
Yes.
It's not that your birthplace, your geographical location, or your surrounding. Look, brother is a perfect example, right? And Kolinujam. And there are many converts. And we see the other way around, as you were saying, right?
The children of prophets, Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, children, his own.
But this notion that, you know, people coming from different contexts, you mentioned Hassan and you mentioned me, but it doesn't make any difference where you're from actually, because as you're saying, if you're born into one of the fuzzies, right,
Yeah.
you have the same imtihan that I have,
Yes.
in a sense, right?
Can I comment? I think every imtihan is special, even if you are born in a religious family.
Absolutely.
That doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be fuzzy families where to match with you. I
It can
think
be in a religious family.
yeah, because even in religious families, sometimes we see brothers. You know, we see brothers. Their kids are they do all kind of stuff like in the best way possible. As you said, like Prophet says the most. But our immediate observation, that's what I'm talking about, is like we see how difficult it is because it's not something like you are not cooking a meal or something, right? It's a person, right? When we are talking about kids and society and our new generations, every one of them is unique of his own, and everyone has a hasab, has an imtihan towards Allah of their own. So what we do, and when we discuss and think about, contemplate about all these issues, we have to be aware of this all the time. We do that. We do encourage people to come, or you know, we do try to deliver the message, whether it's Muslim or non-Muslim. Currently, it can change anytime. We have to be careful. He has or she has his own imtihan. That's it.
Guidance is from Allah.
Guidance.
Yeah. Hidayah is from Allah. Like even for ourselves, we cannot be sure that we will die with the belief, iman. But what we can do is we can work for that. And I think that's the duty of us, and that is important of this meeting as well, to decrease this fuzziness in the society through the like serving for the people,
Ustad
for the
says,
dawah.
during the times of Sahaba, Ustad says, like the distinction between belief and non-belief was very clear.
Yeah.
But he says through time, the boundary between truth and the lies like become fuzzy. Like Ustad uses this concept fuzziness, right? In
Some different fuzzies in the literature, yeah, from the walls.
But he's right. Truth and falsehood, they never blend.
Yeah.
But they become so close that you can't tell one from the other, you know,
Yeah.
like fake news. Fake news is now a thing.
So you were not the example, sorry. You're a good example of her.
I think we'll end it